just to be clear, well, I have two questions. One is, to what extent is there, and this area seems a little bit dicey to me. Like how much advice, training, education in terms of like how to make a more of a multiplier effect from this money is there? And are you guys involved in that, or are there agencies that you pair with? And then also how does this impact existing social safety nets, and how do you make sure that those are not implicated because people say like, whoa, you don't need food stamps now because you're getting this?
Exactly right. So on the first question, we generally come from the point of view that, poor people actually they know best how to spend their money, and that any incremental dollar, they know exactly where it's going to go. So we generally shy away from the sort of more patronizing view that you need to teach people how to spend their money better, and that they're poor because of some choices that they're making themselves. That is not Give Directly's view. Having said that, we have heard actually from recipients in our programs that when we're giving them large lump sums, they would not mind to have a little bit of support in thinking about how to make the most of that money. So that's actually feedback we've gotten from people. And as a result, we often will offer sort of what we call cash plus support. So it's optional, voluntary. People can opt in to get additional like financial support if they feel like they want it and would help their dollars go farther. So we're definitely open to it, but we don't impose that on people. And the whole point of our work is that it's unconditional. And then I think your second question around the social safety net, I think this is a huge question for a lot of people who are doing cash domestically. We have worked with in our two largest projects with the city of Chicago and with Cook County. Working with government actually has massive benefits there. We were able to seek protections to make sure that people's participation in this project, that the money that we were giving them as a grant, as a gift, would not be taxable and would not, take away from their existing benefits, would not be seen as income. But that's something that I think we were able to do because we were working closely with government. And I think the broader community is something that a lot of organizations are battling with. And I think there's a lot of work being done to seek federal guidance and federal support to make sure that, state administered benefits are actually looking at these programs as something that we really want to test incrementally, whether or not these funds are going to be helping people, not just as a replacement for the existing social safety net.
Well, that's what's so key about like the UBI debate generally. Yeah. I mean, that's why, just to make it a little political, we were skeptical here about Andrew Yang because his proposal was as a supplement, or not as a supplement, but as a replacement. And so I'm curious, your organization's been around for over a decade. So how has the national conversation around UBI affected your work and openness from some people maybe in government, but also then you have like just capitalists trying to say, oh, this could be a beneficial way to replace certain programs that might be a little costly for taxpayers, etc. Oh. Hold on, we lost your audio really quickly.
She's frozen.
Yeah, let's see if we can get her back.
Andrew Yang did not want her to answer that question.
I know.
We're reconnecting with her right now. But that's exactly what I was thinking. I couldn't remember Yang's name, frankly. And
well, he was photographed with Ted Cruz at the crypto conference yesterday. So
I'm thankful I forgot his name. But I mean, I think he was on Dave Rubin actually, where he sort of revealed like, eventually we'll be able to get rid of all like the social welfare programs.
I think
all right, we have Sarah's back.
Sarah back, yeah. Sarah, can you hear us?
Sorry. Yeah, I got you. Can you get me?
That's okay. Yep.
Yes, great.
Awesome.
Did you hear my question?
Yeah, sorry about that. I did. You were asking about, how things have changed over the last decade. And I think broadly, I want to reiterate that guaranteed income has been something on the agenda since the 60s, if not before. And I think, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. talked about it in his book, From Chaos to Community, Where We Go From Here. And so, yes, we've definitely seen an acceleration in the conversations around UBI in the last decade, but you also have things like the Alaska Dividend Fund that's been running since the 70s, which is probably the closest thing we actually have in the United States to an actual universal basic income. I think the conversations today are really thinking more practically about, if you have limited resources, how do you distribute it in a way that's going to have the most impact? Is that actually a universal basic income, or is that something that's more targeted to particular people who might have been left out of economic progress for one reason or another? And I think that's where you get arguments around, what we call guaranteed income, which is generally more targeted. It may not be something that's enough for people to live on, but it is definitely something that might lift people out of, a circumstance where they're not able to actually get their feet from underneath them.
How much was the results from the expansion of the of the child tax credit? How much of that, because we cut child poverty in this country by what is it, over 50%?
Or 40%, yeah.
And it seems to me it did two things. One, it showed like the efficacy of giving people money in terms of taking people out of poverty. It also showed that we tolerate maybe not even the word. We have poverty in this country as a policy choice. We can decide not to have poverty. We just decide to have poverty.
Well, the thing I think about with the child tax credit is that the evidence is overwhelming that it had an incredible impact on poverty, and especially children's poverty, to your point. You were talking about the Hudson Project. One of the things that I get excited about with that is it's 5 years long. We have a lot of guaranteed income pilots happening right now, 1 year, 2 years in duration, and that's awesome. I think it's going to contribute to important evidence. But I also think that if you're telling someone that you're going to get income for 5, 10, 15 years, like we're doing with one of our, we're running a 12-year universal basic income project in Kenya. And that is the kind of thing where, with the expansion of the child tax credit, it was on the political chopping block. People didn't know whether or not it was going to get extended or not. And so it's a lot harder for people to conceptualize what it would mean for them to get that guaranteed income for a longer period of time. So I think there's a huge opportunity for us to think differently about that in the US. And I do think that there is at some point a conversation around, do we actually have enough evidence? And I think we would say we're pretty close to having a lot of evidence around cash. We don't really think we need to run, 100 new studies to prove that cash works. And so the question is, how do you then convert that into something where you can actually get broad-based buy-in for those kinds of policies?